Well, you hang on to that. You can
Sure.
bring that in.
There's me. What a handsome devil. Okay, so we want that on and that off.
It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
The legacy of Coach Broyles has helped save my life. I shouldn't be here. Amidst all the adversity that I faced as a youngster, it was the game of football, and it was coaches like Coach Broyles and assistant coaches that he developed that helped me to become the man that I am. So I'm truly honored to be here, to be a part of this event. Hats off to all you guys, but thank you, and thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back into Sports Talk. South Carolina Radio Network, only been away for 22 hours, so it hasn't been all that bad. We welcome all of you tuning over to us from whatever else you were listening to. You've come to the right place. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Go ahead and give us a call. We'll get to your phone calls here early and often tonight, but we have a terrific lineup. That was Tony Elliott, Clemson co-offensive coordinator, who today won the Frank Broyles Award, which goes to the top assistant coach in the country, giving Clemson that award 2 years in a row. Brent Venables was the previous honoree of that award, so congratulations to Tony Elliott. His story is indeed very moving, a story of growing up in a very difficult situation, and he's made a great career for himself as a football coach. So we'll hear a little bit from him on the Broyles Award. Also, we're going to talk more about Arkansas and about Tennessee and what's happening there. Those two situations. Florida State's job was filled today with Willie Taggart from Oregon agreeing to come back across the country, take over the Seminoles program. So, guys, what's still out there? Looks like Rice is hiring the guy from Stanford. So yep. Tennessee's still out there. Arkansas is still out there.
Although it seems now that Arkansas could possibly have zeroed in on a candidate who is very close, at least to these parts, and that is Chad Morris.
Well, the reports now are almost official that it will be Chad Morris turning from a Mustang to a hog as he goes to Arkansas. The logical choice, in my opinion, Corn, because Arkansas needs a shot in the rear ports in with their offense and a guy who's been an outstanding high school football coach. You would think he would be able to siphon off some talent out of Texas to cross the border over into Arkansas.
Would not disagree with that. Quick rise for Chad Morris. He did a good job at SMU. I don't have his numbers right in front of me, but obviously still living a great deal off his reputation as an offensive coordinator at Tulsa and then at Clemson, and, of course, his high school career. I'm not saying he didn't do a good job at SMU. I think he stepped into, obviously, a bad situation and made them somewhat competitive, though he didn't win any league championship or anything like that. But, Will, I think Pro's right. You look at Arkansas, and I think that what got Bielema done there was that he got away from his strength as a coach, which has always been the ground and pound. He got away from that in terms of talent and philosophy. There's no question what they will try and do with Chad Morris as their head coach. It is, and the thing about what happened at Arkansas is that you're going up and going into areas where you don't necessarily have a fertile recruiting footprint to have SEC players come. I think that was part of the problem that Bielema had, is that while his recruiting footprint was in the Midwest, he could not get those guys in the Midwest and the Plains to come down and play SEC football. And when he was going into the houses of guys in whether it was the state of Arkansas or Texas or Alabama, Mississippi, his name just wasn't having a lot of cachet there, and it translated into some of the teams that he had there. Chad Morris has built up a recruiting footprint in the Southeast and in the state of Texas. I think it'll be a lot easier for him not only to get players but also to implement his philosophy, which, again, like you said, Corn, is probably a lot more focused than what Bielema was trying to do with the Razorbacks. Okay, our phone number, 800-956-7266. So that's good news for Clemson. You don't have to worry about Brent Venables going to Arkansas, and we're not hearing Venables too strongly with Tennessee at this point, are we? We are not. According to our friend David Hood, he says someone close to Brent Venables told him that they would be, quote, stunned if he left. Obviously, if Chad Morris goes to Arkansas, that takes him out of the running for the job there. And the only other opening that he'd been rumored with would be Tennessee. So he's basically
out of the mix in Arkansas, and it looks like Tennessee has possibly moved on to other candidates that are not name Venables. That's according to David's report. We know that Tony Elliott, who you previously mentioned, having won the Broyles Award, he was rumored as part of the UCF job. But, of course, that UCF job went to now former Missouri offensive coordinator Josh Heupel, the former Oklahoma quarterback. By the way, I don't know if that message I gave you before the show started, Colin, we're going to have Tony Elliott live on the show at 7:10 tonight. So that'll be fun to have him. Thanks again to the folks at Clemson for giving us a chance to speak with him. And Jeff Scott, we had talked about the fact that he has possibly been rumored with South Alabama. According to David, he had told his writers or readers rather that while South Alabama has contacted co-offensive coordinator Jeff Scott, he rebuffed that contact.
And Cohen, it's interesting when you look at Tennessee. We're hearing Kevin Steele, who's a Vol alum. But then you hearing Mel Tucker's name, defensive coordinator at Georgia. But do you see in your mind Kevin Steele takes the Tennessee job and he brings the chief, John Chavis, with him as his DC, two Dillon guys?
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, look, Philip Fulmer is going to make a hire that's very comfortable for him. It's going to be a hire where I think he's made it clear. And at 7:30, Jimmy Himes, our good friend in Knoxville, is going to join us. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation because Jimmy is old school and he's been around the Knoxville, the Tennessee area, the Tennessee program for decades. So he knows all the comings and goings of what's going on there at Tennessee. And I'll be honest with you, I'm just not being close to it. And being in our little cocoon here in South Carolina, always caught up in the politics and things happening at Clemson and South Carolina over the years, I had no idea that Tennessee was so entangled with governors and a particular big family that donates the money. I didn't realize that they had that kind of outside pressures on them in making their decisions.
Well, it's odd because you mentioned that big family, the Haslam family. The governor is part of that family. The owner of the Cleveland Browns is part of that family. And apparently there was this power struggle leading up to the Greg Schiano hire that I guess jive with certain other people who were high-dollar donors in the Tennessee booster squad, if you will. And to me, this is getting down to the talk that we always seem to have around this time of year. Who really does the program belong to? Does it belong to the state? Does it belong to those who work there? Does it belong to the boosters, or does it belong to the fans? It's a whole chicken and egg scenario, and it gets to the point where almost like these programs are taken like they're publicly traded companies on Wall Street, and when the money doesn't approve of a particular hire or a particular choice, then that money could possibly go away.
Yeah. You're right, and it should belong to the fans and to the people, part of the Vol donors who support the program, not just to a single individual or family. That really grates on me when I hear that one person or a family like that has that kind of influence on decisions there. Look, we've seen that in South Carolina over the years, and at Clemson too. Clemson is not. They're not devoid of having had individuals insert a lot of pressure on decisions and things there. And Auburn, of course, the big donor down in the Mobile area who has so much influence at Auburn, the banker, yeah. So I guess all these schools probably have had people like that. You can go back decades to UCLA basketball, and John Wooden was a dentist out there, right? Got them in a lot of trouble. He was the big influential booster there at UCLA.
Both Missouri and Arkansas have Walmart money too. So I mean that's a big just another centralized situation where you have people who command very great power and influence, and also that green stuff inside your pocket.
Well, I was going to say, the schools don't mind taking their money, and they grudgingly give them the power. And that's what comes with the money, is the power. And the rest of us out here who kind of sit back and wonder what's going on and why things are made, we kind of decisions are made. We kind of look at it like, why and who's pulling these strings. You find out why.
The old saying, more money, more problems.
You got that right. Okay, we'll be back in a moment.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Plenty to talk about tonight here on Sports Talk 800-956-7266. Our email talkback at sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. I am at the beach where we had a beautiful, beautiful day today. This would have been a 36 kind of day for me, 36 holes that is, if we'd had a chance to get out there. But working sunrise to sunset, that's what we do here on Sports Talk. Been out with the yes, sir.
You can go ahead and I'll finish, but I have something that that has just broke from Football Scoop. Apparently, according to what they have to say with Chad Morris' deal, he might try to target Brent Venables as the defensive coordinator at Arkansas and possibly try to lure him away from Clemson, which is
Good luck with that.
Very juicy. I think also very unlikely because of how happy Dabo wants to do that. So.
We have got Richard Davenport from out in Arkansas coming on tonight at 7:20, right? He covers the Razorbacks for, is it the Northwest Times?
The Arkansas Democrat Gazette.
Arkansas Democrat Gazette. So we'll have Richard with us, Jimmy Himes with us. We'll hear from Nate Thompson, coach of the South team here at the North-South game. So I was mentioning I was out at practice today, and I want to remind you that we've got over 80 of the top high school players in South Carolina here in Myrtle Beach. They're going to play their game on Saturday. Weather's going to be okay. A little chilly. Football weather, people. It's football weather. Nothing wrong with 50 degrees for a football game. You can't always have 75 degrees and sunny skies. Weather's going to be fine from that standpoint, but it's a little bit chilly. There is rain coming in tomorrow and Thursday, and maybe some on Friday. Tickets are available right now online at TouchstoneEnergyBowl.com. They're $20. You can also buy them at the gate. Don't forget at halftime the naming of Mr. Football in South Carolina. One of those finalists, Channing Tindall, the linebacker from Spring Valley, a Shrine Bowl selection. According to Lou Beesjack of the state newspaper, Tindall is going to sit out the Shrine Bowl nursing a shoulder injury that it actually cost him a game in the playoffs a few weeks ago, and apparently it's still nagging him. From what I understand, he does still plan to play at this point in the U.S. Army All-American game, but they're going to sit out the Shrine Bowl. Here in the North-South, another player left the beach because of a health issue. It's a wide receiver, Demijah Foster from Spartanburg. He suffered a concussion in practice yesterday, and they ruled him out today, so he has departed. He will not be replaced on the North roster. So that is the news there. Got a chance to talk briefly with Colton Bailey, the fine quarterback from Chapman, who also is out with the shoulder injury that he suffered in the state championship game. Obviously, he was very disappointed that he didn't get a chance to play in the North-South game, and I'm disappointed we don't get the chance to see him play. But they do have some good quarterbacks on the North team. They replaced him with Dre Yarborough from Greenwood High School. Stephen Gilmore Jr. from South Point is a member of the North team. Tell you who I like today, just watching some of the 11-on-11 work that they were doing, Chapman running back DJ Twitty. That's a good-looking running back at 6 feet, 205 pounds. Both teams have some good size up front. I think it's going to be an excellent all-star game on the South. Everybody wants to see Corey Fields, the highly acclaimed quarterback from Baptist Hill, who had a phenomenal senior year with tremendous numbers. He's one of the standouts on the South. So we'll be talking more about that, of course, as we move on through the week, and we'll talk with the South coach tonight coming up here on Sports Talk. The coaches, all SEC team announced this afternoon. USC's Hayden Hurst named the first team tight end, and USC linebacker Sky Moore named to the first team.
Still, no DJ Wanham on any of these teams?
Yeah, led the league. We were looking at the stats in tackles for losses. No Wanham.
That one still just perplexes me, Corn. I don't know if maybe they just think he's a one-trick pony because he can get in the backfield and rush the passer, but In my mind, he is deserving of at least some sort of honor, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, he had a very good year. Maybe you have to look at the guys who were picked ahead of him. The first team defensive line, they don't break it down by tackle or end.
Right.
Jeff Holland, Montez Sweat, Raekwon Davis, and Jeffrey Simmons. The second team defensive line, Deron Payne, Alabama, Marcel Frazier, Missouri, Deshaun Hand of Alabama, Marquise Haynes of Ole Miss. So, you know, I'm sure they all had good numbers. But, yeah, watching Wanham, he really came on this year, and you got to figure going into next year, he will be one of the potential preseason all-SEC defensive line candidates.
One thing that could be hurting him is the fact that he kind of splits time at two different positions, where he's kind of a hybrid outside linebacker and a hybrid defensive end. So maybe that could be disqualifying him because people don't necessarily know where to rank him. But still, this is an all-purpose defensive player. He was probably, save for Sky Moore, or even if you wanted to make a case for Rashad Fenton, he was one of South Carolina's most valuable players on a defense that really dominated at times in conference play.
Yeah, I would throw DJ Smith in there as well. I thought DJ Smith played very well at safety, was very good coming up on the run, especially. He was good at breaking up those bubble screens and things of that nature, or creating some havoc over there. I thought he had a really good year as well, and would have thought he would have earned some postseason accolades here to some degree. But again, you're talking about, you know, being in the SEC with so much talent, you got to really do some great stuff to stand out.
I mean, leading the conference in tackles for loss, would that not be considered great? I mean, I'm just a lot of these things don't have numbers attached to them, but that is a number you can attach to somebody. Like, that's the thing. It's like, you know, I know a lot of this comes down to the eye test, and a lot of these awards kind of get skewed toward some of the SEC West teams because of the disparity in the two divisions. But at the same time, if we're going off of the play that you and I got to see this year, I would say that of anybody that you and I got to see, he certainly deserves some recognition.
And of course, we've seen some of the offenses that South Carolina's played is, you know, kind of ramped up their blocking schemes toward Wanham, which is why we saw Sky Moore get in the backfield more than we've seen in his career when they sent him on the blitz. And of course, South Carolina has sent some corner and safety blitzes as well that's been successful because Wanham drawing maybe double teams on this side of the field.
And I don't mean to disparage one player in reference of trying to gain another, but Dante Sawyer gets the second team AP award yesterday. I mean, I don't mean to give any disrespect to Dante, but I think if you're going to name a lineman to that award, I would name Wanham above Sawyer in my mind, especially because of the fact that there were times during this year where you had Sawyer sitting in place of Keir Thomas.
Yeah, but Sawyer, I think Corn, he was sort of up there in forced fumbles, I think, in the SEC this year.
Yeah. Listen, he had a terrific year and came from relative obscurity to make himself into a force on the defensive line at a time when the Gamecocks have been searching for somebody to give them a pass rush and be disruptive there. And I think he's done a heck of a job doing that. So, but again, maybe you would have thought the coaches would have recognized that.
Exactly.
The AP riders you could understand, but maybe the coaches you would have thought they would have recognized that. Let's turn our attention to USC's offensive coordinator, Kurt Roper. He is not going to get the Rice job. So we go back to our discussion of last night. We go back to what Will Muschamp said at his press conference on Sunday. He is still, according to Will Muschamp, the offensive coordinator, and he is still going to be calling plays moving forward toward the bowl game.
Fancy that. So he wasn't lying, Corn.
Well, suppose Matt Luke picks up the phone and asks him to come to Ole Miss
and be his offensive coordinator. That's
I mean, if he gets another job opportunity that he thinks is better, then, you know, that things can certainly change.
But I'm just saying.
I'm not saying it's an absolute thing, but he didn't get everybody was sort of targeting the Rice opportunity for him, and it's not going to happen.
I'm just saying.
But why would you leave South Carolina and go to a school that's going to be on probation for how many years are they going to be out?
Another year after this current one.
So I don't know that you'd want to make that move on your own volition.
Unless you weren't wanted here or forced to do it.
We're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a Tuesday night from the beach and from Columbia, 800-956-7266. Phone number for you. Lines are open. Go ahead and grab a line and join us tonight here on Sports Talk. Couple of other notes for you. The new coach at UCF is coming from Willie's old backyard, Missouri, as UCF has hired the Missouri offensive coordinator and former Oklahoma. Go ahead,
Josh Heupel. Yes,
I would like to get this word out, Josh Heupel, but
you danced around it enough.
Can't seem to hold it back long enough just to let me finish the sentence, can you?
Well, you weren't. You were dancing around it. I was maybe thinking you were struggling for the name.
No, got it right here. UCF is named Josh Heupel as their new coach. So what do you know about Josh Heupel besides his time at Oklahoma as quarterback?
Well, he loves to run an up-tempo offense. Missouri, as you know, one of the fastest offenses in the country. We saw that against South Carolina earlier this season. They run, I believe, somewhere around 90 to 100 plays a game, and it's going to be something very interesting to see what he does when he can tap into those Florida recruiting ranks to possibly do that. Not that they're getting bad players at Missouri, but I think it's a very interesting little connection there because he can bring a very different style to UCF than what Scott Frost brought to the table.
And guys, coaches are mad scientists. They are not a lot married to a system. And I think it's very ironic that you go with a coach who played at Nebraska with what Leonard's loser used to call the big red thrashing machine and just run the football down your throat, to a guy that ran somewhat of an option offense in Heupel at Oklahoma. And both of these guys have come up with schemes to just spread it all over the lot, throwing the football, something you figured they wouldn't do when you looked at the offenses they played in college.
Well, it just tells you how much the game's evolved.
Exactly.
And the all-SEC quarterback, as named by the coaches, is from Missouri, is your boy there,
Drew Lock.
Drew Lock, yeah.
See, this is exactly what I thought you were struggling before with earlier.
My mind's all over the place. Drew
Lock,
who really the thing about Missouri was they had those two huge offensive games against really inferior opponents. Yes. But then the latter half of their season, they kept up that offensive momentum against everybody they played for the most part.
Yeah, it's weird. Their season really turned around from 1-5 when they played those two non-conference games against Idaho and UConn, and then they basically played the bottom half of what was, again, an SEC East that, to be brutally honest, Corn, there's a cliff below whether you want to use the line of demarcation as below South Carolina or below Missouri, if you're putting Missouri right behind South Carolina, since the Gamecocks had that head-to-head victory. But after Georgia, Kentucky, South Carolina, and Missouri, you basically fall off a cliff to get down to Arkansas, and down to Vanderbilt, and down to Tennessee, and even down to Florida too, because all those teams were extremely deficient in a variety of areas, and Missouri played basically all four of those teams after they had started 1-5, and they also had to play Arkansas, who was basically playing with a lame duck head coach.
I looked at that football game in Athens, and even though it was a loss, I thought Missouri got their sea legs offensively against Georgia, because they made Georgia have to change their coverages and the way they rushed the passer in that football game. And a light came on. Look, guys, they're running it down our throat in the second half. They're beating us, but we see something on offense that's going to scare people.
Yeah, but offensively, I don't think anybody questioned their talent. The problems that they had earlier in the year were on defense. They allowed 40 points to an FCS school in Missouri State, and they got blown out at home by Purdue. So in that vein, I don't think anybody questioned what they did offensively. They didn't have a very good offensive game against South Carolina because of the fact that South Carolina, in a span of 3 plays between a pick six, the Deebo Samuel kickoff return, between those 3 plays, you were able to see South Carolina put the ball game away and completely shift momentum, not unlike the way Clemson shifted momentum against South Carolina with what happened with the Ryan Carter pick six. So basically, Missouri's spirit was killed very, very early in that contest, and they never looked right from that point on.
So what is the future out there with Drew Lock? is he planning on returning for another year? Does he have the option to leave early?
He has the option to leave after this year if he wants to. I think it will depend on who they hire as the offensive coordinator. A lot of people have speculated about him leaving. Those who try to remain optimistic about him staying will maintain and spit back to you the fact that Drew Lock is somebody who was a Missouri fan growing up. His dad played there. He's from the Kansas City area, and he could have a vested interest in wanting to see something special for his senior season. They already had one player of relative prominence in Terry Beckner, their most talented defensive player on the interior, say that he's coming back for his senior season. It's a matter of whether or not Locke wants to jive with a new offensive coordinator, whether they promote from within or they get somebody who is attractive from outside the school. I don't know if he gets a first-round grade. I don't know why he would stay, but there's also the thinking that this might be the wrong year to come out if you're a quarterback, especially if you have guys like Darnold and Mayfield and Rosen and players of that nature trying to compare to you if you are in that quarterback class of 2017.
Well, Trubisky came out after just playing 1 year, and he wowed him with his arm in the camp, so he may take that route. Who knows?
All right, phone number 800-956-7266. The all-SEC running backs from the coaches, Kerryon Johnson of Auburn and Nick Chubb of Georgia. Boy, I tell you what, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but it's hard to leave out the other running back from Georgia.
Sony Michel?
Sony Michel. God, I can't come up with names tonight.
Yeah.
Sony Michel, yeah. I mean, he had a great year as well. But of course, Kerryon Johnson, I think, might have been the league leader in rushing or very near it. So, you have to recognize him for what he did. And Auburn was highly successful as well. Okay, so there you go. Some of the highlights from the All-SEC team. By the way, if you didn't hear this from yesterday, Hunter Yurachek, the former athletics director at Coastal Carolina, who had been at Houston, went from Coastal Carolina to Houston, has now taken an even bigger step and is now the new AD at Arkansas.
And you had to figure that was going to happen after Houston didn't make its way into the Big 12. I had a chance to sit down with him around the time where it looked like they were making their overtures to the Big 12, and he kind of laid out their plan and he was very non-committal about the fact that they were going to be with the Big 12. And then, of course, the next day they're in the Big 12 offices in Dallas making a presentation to try and lure the Big 12 into giving them an invite. And to me, they basically did everything they possibly could. They got a brand new football stadium there. A lot of that credit goes to the guy who preceded him, Mack Rhodes, who ended up leaving to go to Missouri and then to Baylor. But he was very much in on all the planning with that and the new facilities. They built a new basketball arena as well. So he's a man who knows how to get money and get things done. And he did it in an area in Houston, to be brutally honest, Corn, that's not a very big college town. It's a pro sports town, but he was able to get guys like Tillman Fertitta on board, who, of course, now is the owner of the Houston Rockets, and able to get some other high-dollar donors, again, in an area that is not necessarily known for its collegiate sports support, if you will.
He did a good job at Coastal Carolina as he sort of helped them in their transition from FCS to FBS. I believe he was the AD that hired Joe Mowgli. I believe I'm right on that.
Yeah, he did.
I think he was still there. So he did a really good job. I guess he was the AD that hired Cliff Ellis as well, and helped develop that baseball program even more with all the new facilities. So yeah, Yurachek is an AD who has seen his star rise rapidly in the last few years. And now, he can really cement himself. He's in a big-time program, Arkansas. He's got to hire the head coach. Looks like it's going to be Chad Morris. We'll find out more on that coming up a little bit later on from Richard Davenport. But Arkansas, to me, is a school where I would like to coach or be an AD because it's a one-school state. You don't split the populace. Everybody in Arkansas is an Arkansas fan, and I think that's a big bonus to you when it comes to recruiting and bringing in the money. Plus, it helps to have some huge corporations there who are big supporters of you as well. Back in just a moment.
we see a lot of things we want to do, and we see a lot of things we want to work on, and then we, you know, we realize.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
And presented by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. Coming up, recruiting, our conversation with Nate Thompson of the South All-Stars. Let's jump to the phones. Colby in Charleston, welcome into Sports Talk tonight. How are you?
I'm doing fine, guys. I had a question, Phil, about this past weekend, Weekend of Champions. Friday night, Lamar, if I'm not mistaken, beat Baptist Hill. Is there a streak there for Lamar? Is it back to back for them, or is it just this one?
They've won several. I don't think it's back to back. I'd have to check very quickly the record books on that, but I mean they've got a handful of state championships recently, and then more state championships. You know, under Coach Fountain, they've won some state championships. Then previously under J.R. Boyd, they won a bunch of state championships. So I'd have to go back and check the record books to be clear on that.
And one more other question on the Weekend of Champions. Well, not exactly the Weekend of Champions, but leading up to it. Fort Dorchester beat Dutch Fork during the regular season. Beat them pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Why then, and Fort Dorchester was undefeated, why then did they have to go to a Dutch Fork during the playoffs?
It was predetermined in the
coin flip, right?
The brackets were drawn in the preseason. It's predetermined that whoever was coming out of that bracket, that side of the bracket, would be the host in the state semifinals. So it just had nothing to do with record, had nothing to do with head-to-head, had to do with predetermined.
Yeah, I've seen that question a lot from people, and it's odd because I think that's something that was very very well publicized, Corn, throughout the early part of the season, and for some reason that question was brought up a lot leading up to that contest.
Oh wow, I miss cross bracketing and I miss the point system. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not a big fan of cross bracketing. I like the upper state, lower state concept. I know it leads to some weird things, but what I never liked was, like, in the opening round, you'd have an 8 seed from the low country having to go up to Spartanburg only to get beat by 50 points when you knew that it wasn't going to be a contest. Just I prefer the upper lower state alignment the way we have it now. I think now we've got the high school football situation in South Carolina settled after years of doing this, doing that, and I think now with the 5 classes, the weekend of champions, the way it is, everything coming to a head that one weekend, I thought it was great. I thought the attendance was good, weather was excellent, so I give it a big thumbs up on what they did.
Okay, man. All right, thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate your phone call. 800-956-7266. Somebody who knows a thing or two about winning championships and winning a lot of football games. Nate Thompson, the head coach at Carvers Bay, who's also the head coach of the South team here in Myrtle Beach for the Touchstone Energy All-Star Game, the North-South game coming up on Saturday. First day of practice was yesterday, and after the practice, they had a chance to catch up with him to ask him about how things had come together, a couple of practices in the book, and get his thoughts on his team.
We see a lot of things we want to do, and we see a lot of things we want to work on, and then we realize that we got a great group of kids, and you can't just keep them out here all day long. But we're learning, and they're learning us. They're new, and I think this first day was really to find out what those kids are really good at. And because we got kids that are from smaller schools, they've been playing 4 and 5 positions. Well, when they get here, they got one position. They're like, wow, that's it. Yeah, you can be a player now. So they're learning some things, and we're learning some things as coaches and what we can do. And we're trying to take what they've already known. We try not to change a lot, and we're not trying not to be real, how they say, complicated. We're very, very, just bland.
Had to change out a couple of guys from Dillon who were injured in their state championship game.
Yes, that was very unfortunate, and I really felt for them. We picked kids, we picked them on their ability, and those 2 kids had very great ability they should be here, and that's why we chose them. Just unfortunate. I said I think they'd rather have a state championship though. That's just how it goes. But we just let them know before they left that we cared about them. That's why we chose them.
As far as what do you hope to run here this week?
Well, basically, we are handicapped about what we can do, but that's great. I love that too because that keeps my coaches from going crazy. Yeah. So, but we mainly going to try to do a little bit of spread and try to run, and we've got really 2 good quarterbacks, and quarterback from Cane Bay and the quarterback from college, and they can move and they can run. So we like that. They can throw it, they can throw on the move, and you can't ask for anything else about it. The backs, super guys, they run hard. So we're going to try to spread some, and we're going to run out of it and throw. But man, I wish I had them all in my camp, but that didn't happen. But they look good. They're sharp. They're understanding our pass patterns and what our lingo is. The hardest thing right now, the first day, was just learning the lingo. Offensive linemen had to learn, how we're going to call it and everything, and they kind of picked that up pretty good. We try to keep it, but it's like anything else. You got to kind of deprogram what you've been doing at your school. Plus, we got a lot of kids that, they've been out since the first round, and they're getting in shape, so a little bit of huffing and puffing. But overall, the first day, I can't complain.
All right, let's touch on defense, because I know you got to be pretty basic on defense, but do you like your athletes on defense?
Oh, yes. What I like about defense, we're basic, and they just tell us to get after it. And we can kind of let them get after it, and they can kind of play like they've been playing where they are. We just tweaking it a little bit, not that much. You know, the DBs probably got more to work with than linebackers. But so far as the front line, you know, we just come up, we play, you know, and just try to get to the football.
I know you're excited to be here. A year of planning for this from the standpoint of you and your coaching staff. And what does it mean to you and feel like for you to finally be here as a head coach in this game?
Well, it's a great feeling. I mean, it's a great feeling when you're chosen by your peers to say, you know, it's your turn. And you know, when you get here, you know, you first you kind of overwhelmed, and you realize you're meeting every Thursday, and you're looking at film, you're calling coaches, and you know, you're just trying to make sure you get the right kid, you know, and you don't really know if you got the right kid, but on film, he's superb, you know. And then you ask around about, you know, what that kid character is, and you look around, you say, okay, now wait a minute, this is the kid we want, and you get them in camp. But it's a process. I tell guys, you know, we just don't off the hip pick a kid up because we know the coach or we know the team. It's a process. We got some kids from really small areas, but they come in here and they're playing like big guys, and that's what we want. And so this staff, I love them. We gotten closer. We've got to learn to joke and laugh with each other and want to hang out with each other. And so that's a difference.
Coach, thank you very much. Good luck this week.
Anytime. I appreciate it. Like I said, I told the kids, get after it and have fun. I told my coaches, get after it and have fun, because this is something you'll remember probably for the rest of your life.
All right, Nate Thompson, coach of the South team, what a tremendous person he is, and has had a great career as a football coach in our state, has produced a lot of talent from down there in the Low Country, has spent most of his career in the Low Country area, Carver's Bay, I think maybe a little bit of time over at Georgetown, maybe some other schools down that way. And the funny thing in talking with Coach Thompson, if you know Coach Thompson, he must be, if he's 5 feet, that's stretching it. I mean, he's not a very tall individual. And as I told him, I wasn't used to looking down at a football subject that I was interviewing. In fact, today was the day we had each of the players introduce themselves on video and audio for usage on our website and in our broadcast. And boy, you got some big, tall guys on both sides of the state who will be representing the North and the South. Some good-looking guys who will be lining up in the trenches. I mean, Will Posey from East Side, he's listed at 6'7", 290. I mean, when he walked up, the sun disappeared. I thought I was going through another eclipse. That's just one example. Noah Henderson from Marlboro County, 6'5", 288. So some guys who rival Willie P. in terms of size there
big,
in the North-South game.
Sneaky big.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. USC coach Will Muschamp and defensive coordinator Travaris Robinson were in this week for a visit with defensive back Israel Mukwama of Bossier City, Louisiana. He's a former Florida State commitment, but now he says USC is on top. Indiana has also been in, and Purdue will be in the home on Wednesday. USC linebackers coach Coleman Hutzler made a school visit on Tuesday with linebacker Channing Tindall of Spring Valley, who's dropped out of the Shrine Bowl due to a shoulder injury. Ben Lippen linebacker Kyle Wright committed to North Carolina. USC target defensive end Dorian Gerald of the College of the Canyons Junior College in California was offered by Ole Miss. Louisville coach Bobby Petrino was in on Monday. He takes an official to Louisville this weekend. And Nebraska offered USC target defensive back J.C. Horn of Alpharetta, Georgia. Phil Kornbluth, South Carolina Radio Network Sports. Tighten that up. That should work.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Back we are, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. On a Tuesday night across the great state of South Carolina, we thank you wherever you are dialed in tonight. 800-956-7266. Phil Kornbluth, the Professor Tom Hayes, Willie P-Style, Will Pelagic, back at our studios in Columbia. By the way, for the caller asking about Lamar, I've looked it up. Lamar won the state championship in 1A Division II in 2015. Then in 2016, lost in 1A to Lakeview, and then won it this year. So they did not win consecutively. If you go back a few years when they were in 1A Division II, they had a run of like 3 years in a row when they won the state championship there. Yeah, 2002, 2003, 2004, back when the 1A divisions were split and all that kind of nonsense. That's why I'm glad they've got it now with just 5 classes. So want to answer that question. All right. It is a pleasure to welcome to Sports Talk the man who has been named the Assistant Coach of the Year, the Broyles Award, bringing it back to Clemson for a 2nd straight year for that Tigers staff. Clemson co-offensive coordinator Tony Elliott joining us here on Sports Talk. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing well. Appreciate you having me.
Oh, our pleasure. Congratulations. And just share with us, if you would, your thoughts about getting that honor today and what it means to you at this stage in your coaching career.
I tell you what, it was an unbelievably humbling experience, just having an opportunity to go out to Little Rock and to learn about the legacy of Coach Broyles and his impact on the game of football, the coaching profession, the University of Arkansas, the state of Arkansas, and to be around his family. It just gave me confirmation that football is a calling, and I'm very humbled to win the award. And at this point in my career, I've never really thought about where I'm at. I just try to do the best with the opportunity that I have. But it's big for Clemson to have 2 years in a row the Broyles Award winner on staff, and Brent was there with me, and for him to be able to share some words on my behalf, it was just a really, really neat experience.
You talked about coaching as being a calling, Coach, and I know that it's something, too, that is very near and dear to you because of what this game has meant to you, and you said as much in your finalist speech. How much does it make the decision to get into this profession? How gratifying is it now that you have this award?
It's just confirmation that I made the right decision back in 2006 when I took a leap of faith to walk away from a very promising engineering career to get into a profession that didn't have a whole lot of stability. But it's just confirmation that I made the right decision, because at the end of the day, we all have a purpose, and each one of us needs to wake up every single day fulfilling that purpose. And the Lord revealed to me that my purpose is to use my platform, my testimony in the game of football to impact young people.
Well, you're engineering a pretty good offense right now. and tell us about the character of this guy, Kelly Bryant, because I know just personally, if I had to follow a guy like Deshaun Watson, I would say, hold it, wait a minute. Let me check the size of these shoes I have to fill. But he has, for lack of a better term, been in his own skin, playing his own role, playing it the way he wants to. And just tell us how his career has really evolved this season.
Well, we're not where we are as a team or as an offense without Kelly Bryant, and for him to have the success is very, very neat and fun to experience. But it starts with who he is as a person, the things that he's overcome in his life, the adversity that he faced in high school, and the disease that he's been battling, and just it's really given him the calm demeanor to be able to persevere through adversity, never to get too high, never to get too low. He did an unbelievable job of piggybacking off of Deshaun and learning from him how you're supposed to prepare, how you're supposed to be a quarterback. And then he just took it head on. A lot of people doubted him. They said that he wasn't going to be able to live up to the expectations, and he didn't worry about that. And then the best thing he did was just use himself. And because he's himself, he's able to get better every single week. And the guys really, really rally around him because he's a genuine individual.
Talking with Tony Elliott, the winner of the Broyles Award, Clemson co-offensive coordinator. Listen, nobody was surprised last year when y'all won the whole thing. I think everybody is surprised that you're back and you're #1 going into the playoffs this year. I mean, nobody could see this coming, I don't think, considering the losses that you guys suffered on offense last year. In the summer, in the spring, in the summer, when you had some deep thoughts to yourself, could you see this? Could you see getting back into the Final Four again?
Definitely had an opportunity to be special again on offense. Now, we knew that it was going to take some experience. It was going to take a lot of hard work. But for us, best is the standard. And even though those guys are just getting their opportunity, they've been in the program for a couple of years. You're talking about Ray McLeod, Deion Kane. Kelly Bryant. Those are juniors that have been around our program. They understand what it takes to be successful. They've watched the model and the guys before them, and we knew we were going to be led by an offensive line with that was a veteran group. And so we figured if we can just stay the course, take our lumps every day in practice, because again, Brett Venables and the defensive staff does an unbelievable job of preparing us daily in practice by the way that they challenge us. So we knew if we could just stay the course, remain humble, and not panic, that we'd have an opportunity to at least carry our weight on offense.
I know you can't get into specifics in terms of specific players, but from the standpoint of this year being at least a brand new situation for you guys, having to deal with the early signing period and also dealing with the fact that you got an opponent to get ready for in January, how does that new wrinkle kind of jive with what you guys have had to do in the past, not only juggling recruiting, but also juggling the fact that you are now in the third consecutive year in a college football playoff, having to prepare for a very good football team?
It's a new frontier, so obviously this will be a learning year for us as to how the early signing period is going to affect recruiting. But Coach Sweeney does an unbelievable job of planning and preparing, and he's already thought about what our schedule is going to be. And obviously we figured out a formula that's been successful the last 5 years in terms of going into bowl games. So we understand what it takes from a practice standpoint, but in terms of how you got to manage bowl practice and going out and recruiting, that's something that we're working through this year.
Let me ask you this question real quick before we let you go. You guys have the unique situation of having co-offensive coordinators. I mean, it's almost unheard of at this level. And I'm just wondering, take us inside the meeting room, and how does it work between you and Jeff? You have to put egos aside and all that. But let's just say you have a situation where you just something. Who carries the day? How do you break a tie between the two of you?
Well, at the end of the day, we're going to do whatever is best for our players to put them in a position to be successful. And we have a history of working together, and we understand that it takes both of us to be able to counterbalance and make sure that some of us have ideas, but it's not just Jeff and myself. It's Robbie Caldwell, it's Brandon Streeter, it's Danny Pearman. And so we talk through everything. And so as we build a game plan, each of us have little components of the game plan that we're responsible for, but we spend a lot of time together. And then once we've done our research on our particular area, we bring it back to the table, and we get not just mine and Jeff's opinion, but we get everybody's opinion on it to make sure that it's the best sound situation to put our kids in so they can be successful.
Do you guys try to draw a consensus from the offensive staff before you move forward with a particular idea?
Well, also too, we understand that if we all can't come to an agreement, then it's probably something that's not meant to be, and we probably don't need to spend or waste time trying to make it work. So we've been together for so long now. Most of us have been together for 7 years, and Coach Streeter's now on his third year coaching our quarterback. So we all are on the same page in terms of what our system looks like and what are the things we can get accomplished. And we try to add wrinkles when we can, but at the end of the day, we're just trying to make sure that we put together a sound plan, we take the ego out of it, and then we go forward. And we don't care who gets the credit. It's just like throughout the course of the game, obviously there is a distinction, but Coach Sweeney has input, Jeff has input, I have input, Robbie has input, so does Danny, and so does Street.
Sure. Well, listen, our congratulations to you once again. Job well done. It's been wonderful watching you rise from a receiver down in the Charleston area all the way through college and now at coaching level. It's been a great ride for you. Continued success, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, I appreciate you having me. And again, I stand on the shoulders of giants that make me look a lot taller and better than I actually am.
Thank you, Coach.
That is Tony Elliott, Clemson co-offensive coordinator, and also now the Broyles Award winner for the 2017 season. That's quite an honor. Gives Clemson back-to-back years. And you know what, guys, when you're winning championships, your assistant coaches are going to be recognized for the hard work that they do as well.
Spoils
when
winning.
We come back. Yeah, when we come back, Richard Davenport from Arkansas is going to join us. We'll find out more about what is happening out there with the Hogs here on Sports Talk.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Also, the place to talk tickets for the Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl. Reminder, you can order those tickets online at touchstoneenergybowl.com. Tickets are just $20. You can buy them online or also buy them at the gate. Just make sure you buy them in time for Saturday's game here in Myrtle Beach. Welcome back into Sports Talk. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, the Professor Tom Hayes. We continue with our string of stars here on Sports Talk tonight. We welcome in Richard Davenport from the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Things have been hopping all over the place in Fayetteville with the AD's job, now the head coach's search. And Richard, we asked to join us to fill us in after we were primarily thinking, Richard, we were going to talk to you about Brent Venables and the possibility of him ending up as the head coach there. But now they've thrown some cold water on that. It looks more like Chad Morris at this point.
Yeah, that's what we're getting. They're in negotiations to finalize everything, and it looks like it'll be official, probably in the next 24 hours. But that's the direction it's going, unless obviously there's some kinks in the negotiations. But everything seems to be going forward, and looks like he'll be the next head coach at Arkansas.
How would you rate that as a fit, Richard?
I'll be honest with you guys. I didn't know a lot about Chad until his name came up for the job, and I started checking around with some people that I respect in college football and Texas high school football, and after getting to know more about him, I really didn't have an strong opinion, pro or against, until I really started getting more information, and I'm truly blown away by some of the comments I'm getting from some of the high school coaches in the state of Texas and some of the people in college football, and a lot of fans just look at what he's done the last 3 years at SMU, and there's not a lot of hoopla about that. But once you get to really understand what he's about and what he possibly can bring at the University of Arkansas, you're realizing this could be potentially a very, very good hire. And obviously we won't know that for a few years, but on the surface, after hearing more and more about him, I tend to lean towards it's going to be a good hire.
Richard, looking at it, you got two coaches. Looks like in the West making 7.5. You got one making 7. There's only one division title. Upward mobility would be tough for any team, including Arkansas. The Arkansas fans, their expectations, they've been squelched somewhat, or they still see that they can climb and be the king of the mountain in the West in a few years under a new coach?
Well, I think every fan base is optimistic. Sometimes they're not realistic, but they're optimistic. And I guess you can look back at a couple of years ago with Coach Bielema. Things seemed to be going in the right direction, and I think Arkansas fans are pretty optimistic about the future and what could lie ahead in 2 or 3 years. But obviously, set back this year, a lot of fans will go back to when Bobby Petrino was here at Arkansas, back-to-back 10-plus winning seasons, national finishing number 5 in the nation. The last year he was at Arkansas, and I think that's what Arkansas fans would like to see again. Is that doable? Only time will tell. But I still think that even despite what happened this year, Arkansas fans, and like any other fan base, they always feel like that their school can get it near the top or at the top at some point.
We're talking with Richard Davenport from out in Arkansas. So, Bielema came in heralded, and he left Wisconsin and sort of looked down their nose at the Badgers and said, I'm going to the SEC and do my thing there, and started out okay for him, but last couple of years not so good. Why did it get away from him? Why could he not win at the high enough level there at Arkansas?
Well, I'm always a guy that believes in patience. I might have if I was the AD, even though it was getting pretty bad as far as the fan base losing confidence in him, I might have brought him back another year. You see that so many times when you have a losing season, when you're rebuilding a program, and if you show a little bit of patience, sometimes you're rewarded. And I think they might have been rewarded next year, but obviously that didn't happen. Some of it went wrong as far as this year. Some of the misses in the recruiting area. As far as the offensive line, they had some misses there in some other areas. And the last couple of recruiting classes, they really improved the team speed, or the guys that had a little bit more speed in the last two recruiting classes. And I think Chad Morris, if he's indeed officially announced as the new head coach, I think they're going to see some young, very promising young talent. Obviously, they have some holes to fill, but I think that maybe he even admitted that they probably didn't recruit enough offensive and defensive linemen, and that caught up with them this year. And but at the same time, I do believe if they can fill some holes on the offensive and defensive line for next year, Arkansas has a chance to be a pretty good team next year.
Was there something more below the surface involving the discontent with Jeff Long, or was it all tied to football? And now how do you spin that forward and see the fit with Hunter Yurachek and how he jives with a lot of that very powerful money that resides in the state of Arkansas?
Absolutely. Good things, a lot of good things at the University of Arkansas. But the number one thing that got him, though, was his people skills was not the best. When he came in, he basically tried to, eliminate a lot of the Frank Boyles people, and a lot of the people not only on campus, but also people, influential boosters that Boyles relied on. He didn't. His people skills were not very good with those type, and even a lot of other big money types. And he did a good job in a lot of areas, but his communication skills really, I think, got him at the end. You got to be able to pat people on the back and at least make them feel like that you're listening to them at times. And I think that's one area that he lacked. It wasn't necessarily just the football that obviously contributed to it, but the losing season, obviously, if Brett Bielema would have went 9-3, you probably wouldn't be having this discussion right now. Jeff Long would still probably be the AD, but you can't do some of the things that he did and I guess get away with it when you have a losing season in football.
So what was the reaction in the room yesterday when Venables was introduced to the crowd at the Broyles luncheon, and fans started doing the suey pig thing to him, while he was up there? Apparently a lot of people were very desirous of Brent Venables being the next coach at Arkansas.
No doubt. There's been a strong part of the fan base that definitely would have liked to seen him be the head coach. Obviously, he's got a great resume, and you can't argue with that. And defending national champions and very successful at what he does. So there was definitely a good amount of the fan base hoping it was him. But I think after more and more people learn more about Chad Morris, and I think they'll be happy with the hire too.
Oh yeah. If you like exciting, if you have the right quarterback, it helps to have the right quarterback. If you got that trigger man, listen, he was blessed with Deshaun Watson for most of his time at Clemson, and plus a bevy of outstanding receivers. That helps.
Exactly. You guys know Chad Morris better than I do, so you guys can tell me more than I can tell you.
Well, he's a super guy. You'll enjoy talking to him. He's a good interview. He's pretty straightforward, talks with that little Texas twang. So I really liked him when he was at Clemson, and obviously a star on the rise in the coaching profession, or we think he is. We'll see how he does in the SEC. Richard, we thank you, my man. We really appreciate you joining us tonight. We'll see you soon.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thank you. All right, Richard Davenport from out in Arkansas at the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. So Chad Morris is going to bring his offensive mind to the SEC West. See how that works out in the future. Back we are, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from the Touchstone Energy Bowl North-South All-Star Game in Myrtle Beach, plus our studios in Columbia. College basketball tonight. James Madison is playing at Citadel, Winthrop at Georgia. SC State back in action at Presbyterian. Thank goodness it sounds like everything's going to turn out positive for Ty Solomon. UNC Asheville at Furman, and the College of Charleston women are playing at USC tonight, which reminds me, high school basketball up and running around the state of South Carolina, and the holiday season is approaching. That means some great holiday basketball tournaments in the Midlands area and across the state, including the annual Bojangles Bash at Ridgeview High School. Athletics Director Brian Rosefield joining us here on Sports Talk. Brian, how are you?
Bill, I'm doing great. I appreciate you having us on. How are you doing tonight?
Man, we're doing great. Appreciate you being with us. And you guys kind of get a chance to sort of tip things off in the holiday season with your big tournament coming up.
And we really do. I mean, the Bojangles Bash is our 5th year. It's hard to believe that we're entering our 5th year with the Bojangles Bash, but you just mentioned it, Phil. Like, Columbia it's turned into a hotbed for high-level basketball, and we're excited to be a part of it, and like you say, be able to tip it off this weekend in December. We love it, this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. 17 teams, 13 games from all over the country, and for the first time from all over the world. It's not that far on the other side of the border, but we are bringing Orangeville down from Canada, and that's a group that, I mean, I'm telling you, they're playing 3 nights here at Ridgeview High School, and fans really don't want to miss them. We watched them. I went up to Greensboro and watched them a couple of weeks ago, and I walked in. I thought I was looking at a college team, Phil. They're absolutely unbelievable. But like I said, 3 days of basketball action here at Ridgeview High School with Bojangles Bash, and just really can't wait to get it started.
Yeah, and you know, basketball fans they love to come out and watch the teams, but they want to see these stud individuals, your Zion Williamson types, these highly rated guys, and they'll pack the gym. And I'm sure you've got those kind of attractions in your event.
Oh, we do. And, you know, obviously locally here we have Christian Brown, who's now down at Lower Richland, Jawan Gary at Gray Collegian. Those guys are ranked in the top 30 in the country. Christian at number 18 in the country in his class, and Jawan at number 29. Those 2 guys alone are worth the price of admission. But yeah, coming down from North Carolina, a Duke commit. This is our first time we've ever had a Duke commit, and Joey Baker from Trinity Christian, ranked number 13 in the country. And I tell you, that kid does it all. I don't know if you've seen them play, Phil, but Joey Baker is fantastic. And then 2 kids from Cox Mill, Cox Mill is ranked number 22 nationally by USA Today, and Wendell Moore and Leaky Black. That might be my new favorite nickname, is Rashawn Leaky Black. But both of those kids are ranked in the top 100. Wendell number 25, and Rashawn at number 65. And then Orangeville has the number 4 prospect in Canada and the number 8 prospect in Canada. And so, I mean, Bojangles Bash this year is chock full of and loaded with talent. And we're telling everybody, Phil, this is our best Bojangles Bash ever, and it's no lie. We really excited to see these kids come in, and they start landing tomorrow. Orangeville arrives at the airport tomorrow. We'll be there to meet them with some Bojangles and welcome them to South Carolina. Might be the first time they've ever had Bojangles, so we'll be excited to see how they do with that as well. So.
Well, I suggest that you fill them up. If they're going to be playing your guys, make sure you fill them up with a lot of biscuits. It might slow them down a little bit. Absolutely.
We'll schedule that pregame meal for about a half hour before tip-off on Friday night. Our Ridgeview guys play Orangeville on Friday night at 7:15. That's the beauty of our event too, Phil, is that being a showcase, we're able to tell fans exactly when teams are playing. There's no disrespect to tournaments. Tournaments have their place, obviously, but to be able to have a showcase in this format to say, you know, like I said, Ridgeview at 7:15 on Friday night is going to be playing Orangeville out of Canada, and you know, fans can go to bojanglesbash.com and see those matchups right now. They can follow us on social media. We're all over social media, Phil. I don't know if you follow us there, but we love it. We love interacting with fans there. So we do, that schedule is out there. So just encourage fans to check that out and find that matchup that works best for them and come on out to the Bojangles Bash.
Sure. 3 games on Thursday, 3 on Friday, then a full slate from noon to 9 on Saturday. And listen, you guys, you got the young up-and-coming Wilson kid, I believe, who's still growing, might eventually reach 7 feet. I mean, you got some studs yourself.
We do. In Ridgeview, we hired a new coach a couple years ago, and Yerrick Stoneman, who was at Oak Hill Academy, came down from Virginia, was able to pluck him out of Virginia. But you're right. I mean, Malcolm Wilson has been offered by South Carolina, by Clemson, and I don't want to put too much business out there, but Brad Brownell is in the gym tonight. We're playing Blythewood as we speak, Phil, and Coach Brownell is down here checking him out. But Malcolm has come a long way, 6'10", 6'11", can really run, has got great hands, and a fantastic kid. You will not find a better kid than Malcolm Wilson. We have Waylon Napper, who has gotten some looks as well, and then a bunch of young kids that honestly folks have not really heard about. And you know, we went over to Spring Valley the other night and beat Spring Valley pretty good on the road and beat them pretty handily. So you're right. I mean, Ridgeview is on solid ground here basketball-wise, and you know, that's the special thing about the Bojangles Bash is that we're able to give our guys 3 great matchups to play a national schedule right here in our own backyard and bringing the community in. It's great for community. It's great for our kids. I mean, I can't tell you how many. Well, first of all, I'm getting a whole lot of requests for free tickets and fans. I'm out of comp tickets. I can't help you out in court, but our kids get excited about it. Our students, our community get excited about it. I mean, it's a fantastic event, and we really, not to steal a line from Jim Nance or anything, but it's an experience unlike any other. I mean, really, I get chills thinking about it. And Jim, if you're listening, please call me. I'd love to talk to you. But no, it's really it's a lot of fun. We put a DJ down in the corner, DJ IM, who is a Ridgeview grad but travels the country and does events like this, and it's a whole lot of fun. And hopefully, like I said, it's just three great days of high-level basketball here at the Bojangles Bash. So.
Well, enjoy it. Enjoy the Bojangles. Hope you have big crowds. I'm sure you will, and great competition. And we thank you for being with us tonight, and good luck with everything.
Bill, thank you so much for having us on. Really appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Brian Rosefield, Athletics Director at Ridgeview High School. So, again, the action begins on Thursday with 3 games at 6, 7:15, and 8:30. Same thing on Friday. And then Saturday, things begin at noon, and they run till 9 o'clock on Saturday night. A lot of great high school basketball.
Surprised you didn't give them a little flack for having a DJ, because I know how anti-DJ you are.
Well, I didn't want to spoil the moment.
Understand.
And it's best to have a DJ in an enclosed area.
Well, you're all about being honest and nobody lying, so
Well, did the DJ make a big difference in USC season?
Yeah, made him 84.
Oh, okay. So give him a more prominent role then. Send the band home and let the DJ play all the music.
We'll tell you over the next 3 or 4 recruiting classes the cycles as far as that's concerned. We do have some scores here. We the USC women 29, Charleston College of Charleston 10. That's in the
first
half. In the first half, really. All
right, let me jump in with recruiting here before we get to our next break, because Jimmy Himes is coming up after the break. USC met this week with defensive back Israel Mukwama, Bossier City, Louisiana. Will Muschamp, Travaris Robinson were in. He's now favoring the Gamecocks. They are at the top, he said. They are my favorites. Things can happen. So thinks he'll commit to South Carolina or Indiana, Purdue. Those seem to be the main ones. He's a former Florida State commit, but it could be next week or on the early signing day, December 20th. But feels real good about South Carolina right now. USC linebackers coach Coleman Hutzler made a school visit this afternoon with linebacker Channing Tyndall of Spring Valley. Ben Lippen linebacker Kyle Wright committed to North Carolina today. USC target defensive end Dorian Gerald, College of the Canyons Junior College in California, was offered by Ole Miss. Louisville coach Bobby Petrino was in yesterday. Of course, Lance Thompson from USC was in Sunday. He takes an official to Louisville this weekend. Clemson offered 2019 defensive back Tyreek Stevenson, Homestead, Florida. He's a Florida commit. Also, 2019 receiver Lance Wilhoit of Nashville and 2020 offensive lineman Paris Johnson Jr. of Cincinnati. USC offered 2020 defensive end Fadil Diggs of Camden, New Jersey. USC was in to visit defensive back Asante Samuel of Fort Lauderdale this week. He's a Florida State commitment, but took an official to USC. Nebraska offered USC target defensive back J.C. Horn of Alpharetta, Georgia. Defensive end Dennis Briggs of Kissimmee, Florida, said he will take an official to USC. The date's not been set. Defensive lineman Jackson Carman of Fairfield, Ohio, had an in-home visit with Southern Cal Monday. And 6'3" point guard Trey McGowan is going to stay in the 2019 class, not going to come back to 18.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
One more recruiting note. Damian Daly, defensive lineman from Ridgeview, just a few minutes ago announced a commitment to Colorado State. He's the brother of the USC left tackle, so congratulations to him. Let's welcome in our good friend Jimmy Himes from Tennessee, who is a that's not what Jimmy sounds like. When I've talked to him, he doesn't sound like a dial tone. What's the story back there, guys? Have we lost Jimmy?
No, Brian is pressing the wrong button, I believe. Understand. It's odd.
Well, let's see if we can get somebody up on the line. Do we have Jimmy now?
He's talking to him right now. I think we have him ready to go.
Okay.
Or I guess not. Why are you not what? Apparently,
we're having a
apparently when he's
meltdown, yeah.
Apparently our board is fried or
Yeah.
something.
Let's see if we can get this figured out real quick, because I want to talk to Jimmy. I got to make fun of
We got
Jimmy
to find out about this Tennessee job
and the
It's
misery he's
intriguing.
been going through the last couple of weeks. We still having an issue?
I guess apparently.
Oh, y'all figure it out real quick and let me know
How
something
about
in
that?
the meantime.
How about that?
Is that
I
working,
can hear
Jimmy?
you.
Hey,
There we go.
Hey.
we had about as much trouble getting you on the air as Tennessee's had trying to hire a football coach.
Oh, you stole my line. I was fixing to go right there. I tell you, it's been a mess over here. Still looking. I do think they'll have somebody in place within the next 72 hours. I know that Philip Fulmer's interviewed a number of candidates in New York. He interviewed some people before he went to New York, and I think he zeroed in on several candidates. I think he and his team have talked to at least a dozen people. They went back to talk to some that had been on the board earlier that had said no. And so anyway, I think Tennessee's getting close to hiring somebody.
You know, Jimmy, you've been there forever. You're like an encyclopedia of Tennessee Vol sports. Have you ever gone through a 2-3 week period in observing University of Tennessee that is the equal to what you've experienced here?
No. I've seen some blunders. I've seen some dysfunction. I've seen some embarrassing instances. I don't remember one quite like this. And the old saying, and you hear this from a lot of fans, and I've tried to rebut this for a long time, well, you got to hurry up and fire the coach so you can jump in there and get your coach before somebody else nabs him. There have been at least 11 coaches hired at Power 5 schools, most of whom fired their coach after Tennessee did and hired before Tennessee did. And look at LSU last year. They hired Les Miles. They fired him after 4 games, and hired Ed Orgeron because they couldn't get the coaches that they wanted. So this myth about, hey, fire him early so you can go get the coach, just not necessarily the case.
It's hard to keep this answer brief, but how do you explain the power struggle that went on to get us into this mess?
Well, I think in essence what happened was the Haslam family, which has done many, many great things for Tennessee and this community with their donations, they pushed for the hiring of John Curry. John Curry was not doing a very good job in his coaching search, and I think he defied some orders along the way, which is why Tennessee's trying to fire him with cause. And I think when some of the powers that be saw that, they pounced and said, it's time for a change here. We need different people calling the shots. And so they got rid of Curry, and Fulmer was not the choice of the Haslams. He was not. And so they jumped in there with the other folks that saw that there was an opening. They seized it, and they ended up getting Curry out and Fulmer in. And I do not believe that Fulmer will be beholden to the Haslam family in regard to this hire.
Why is it that wasn't early on that the powers that be just squelch this John Gruden nonsense and move on? It seems that a trial balloon was thrown up, and some of the fan base wanted a John Gruden, thought maybe he would finally jump at the chance to coach Tennessee. But you almost had that feeling from the get-go that he was not going to be a serious candidate, and yet his name kept coming up.
Well, I think there were 2 things that happened. One, John Gruden didn't squash it because he never brought his name up, and he loves to be loved. He loves to be talked about. So that's one angle, right? The second factor is Tennessee, and I think this was a miscalculation on John Curry's part. He delighted in fans and media focusing in on John Gruden because he thought that would allow him to conduct a more private search. So while a lot of folks were looking in the direction of Gruden, he was off interviewing Dan Mullen, or he was off interviewing Greg Schiano, or he was off interviewing somebody else, and it was throwing people off the scent. So that's why he did that. I'm going to say miscalculation because of the way this thing is played out, but I do believe that was the strategy.
So do you have an intelligent gut instinct about who the next coach will be?
Well, intelligence and gut to me don't go together, okay? You miscalculated me there. I think it's either going to be right now, I think it's going to be Kevin Steele, Auburn's defensive coordinator, or Jeremy Pruitt, Alabama's defensive coordinator. I think that is the direction they're looking at. There's been a lot of sentiment for T. Martin, Southern Cal offensive coordinator, former Tennessee quarterback. It's interesting that most people that call our show that support T say, yeah, but he won a national championship. That has nothing to do with being a good football coach. He did win a national championship, and I like T a lot. I don't think he's going to get hired, okay? And there's some others. There's Brent Venables, Clemson's defensive coordinator. Mel Tucker, Georgia defensive coordinator. I think that they're going in the direction of a defensive coordinator, defensive coach. I think that's been evident because they did not offer Chad Morris, who's going to go to Arkansas now. There were a number of other people that they did not offer that were offensive coaches. And after they called Jeff Brom back at Purdue and didn't get anywhere with that. I don't know if they just were betting him or they tried to rehire him. I don't know. I'm going to say probably not. And I think the focus now is on the defensive coordinator. I'll tell you this. From the get-go, my belief has been that Philip Fulmer wants to hire a hard-nosed coach who will bring toughness back to Tennessee. I think it really bothered him to see how soft Tennessee became, how finesse-oriented they became. And he didn't like that. He didn't like that at all. And look, if you look at the teams, the best teams in the league, you could argue that Alabama's physical. You could argue that Auburn is physical, and you can argue that Georgia's physical. That's more of what he wants to see. He doesn't like all this physical, this finesse stuff, which is what we've seen at Tennessee for several years. So I think that's a part of the characteristic that the coach is looking for.
All right. Any chance John Chavis shows up back on campus in some form or fashion?
I'm going to say, well, in some form or fashion, possibly. Yeah, that's possible. Certainly not a candidate for the head coaching job, but right. It's possible that if Kevin Steele gets hired, that John Chavis could join the staff. Kevin Steele and John Chavis grew up together in Dillon, South Carolina. They're best of friends. They were walk-ons at Tennessee, both of them, and they both coached at Tennessee. So I think there would be a chance that if Steele got hired.
Well, listen, man, I feel for you because I know this has been a long, draining, tiring ordeal, both for the people of Tennessee, for the school, and for the media trying to cover it. And you do a great job with it and been on top of it all the way. And we thank you for spending a couple of minutes with us tonight.
Well, Phil, you're welcome. You guys take care. Have a good night.
Thank you. Jimmy Himes, who, of course, is on the radio in Knoxville on the Animal. The Sports Animal, I think is how they refer to it. I don't know the call letters off the top of my head. Used to be the old WNOX frequency there in Knoxville.
Remember that.
Remember WNOX? That was back in the day of AM only, man. If you wanted to listen to rock and roll, WNOX out of Knoxville.
That was it.
WNML is the call letters there, or are the call letters.
You know,
there.
I'm hearing that word
Minimal.
soft a lot. You know, we've heard it from Frank Martin. We hear it from now Jimmy Himes talking about Fulmer not liking the way his team is soft. We heard it from Florida's coach last night when they got blown out by Florida State, the epitome of soft. What is this softness?
If you missed our Tony Elliott conversation from earlier, Clemson's Broyles Award winner, it is now online at SportsTalkSC.com.
All right, guys, great job. Enjoyed it. Enjoyed having our guests with us tonight. We'll have more from the beach for you tomorrow nights. I think Clemson's having a media avail tomorrow. We'll have that for you, too. USC basketball tomorrow night as well against Wyoming. Thank you, Brian, and have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Nothing. I'll be at Clemson tomorrow, and I'll do the casts from there. Do you want me to go to hoops early or wait till halftime?
Whatever you want to do. The game's at what, 7 o'clock, Tip?